first good idea that the city of Kansas City, Missouri, combined with the Royals, have had in quite some time. I'm excited for them. I'm excited about the potential. Good morning. Happy Thursday. 6:05. It's great to be here on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. As always, we're streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. So this was broken yesterday by Sam McDowell of the Kansas City Star, and he wrote here that the Royals are taking a serious look at Washington Square Park, which sits just north of Crown Center and just east of Union Station. And, I sit here and I say to myself, well, that's a nice area to try to highlight if you're the Kansas City Royals. Do they have the room to get in everything they want to get in when it comes to location, when it comes to hotels? You got a lot of hotels there. When it comes to restaurants, I don't know. I don't really care about that part. That's a business end. As a regular guy, as a fan, as somebody who wants to go see some baseball, there are certainly far worse locations they've looked at, John Anthony. So I sat there and I said to myself, hey, that's pretty good.
Boomer, trivia, before it was at Jackson, or before they put it out at the sports complex and developed there's renderings of it being approximately behind Union Station there, just to the north of Union Station.
Okay.
The tracks are there now, so I can't remember if it was fanciful artwork or if there was any plan to kind of cap off the tracks and play over the top, but it was in that area.
Well, that's a pretty cool area.
Yeah, about where the Penway Point.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, either way, it's a part of the city that the Royals have never really looked at. They've never actually done anything beyond, say, East Village, Crossroads, or, of course, go up north to Clay County. This is a location that obviously ties in some of the crown jewels of Kansas City. You got the National World War I Museum, obviously, right there. You've got Union Station. And based on the article and based on the report, the stadium would face north, which means you would have downtown right over left field. So from a location perspective, as you kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together, it makes a lot of sense. The parking down there, because we all love to talk about parking in this town, I don't know how they would figure that part out because there's a lot more parking in downtown inside the loop than there is obviously down in that part of Kansas City. So that's once again something for the Royals and the city to figure out. But just from a pure baseball stadium perspective, it's the first time in a long time I've said, okay, if that's where the Royals want to go, that's actually kind of cool. That actually makes some sense. Now, Mike Parson, the governor of the state of Missouri, he made some news on this show on Friday, and this was also picked up by the Kansas City Star yesterday. They were, 5 days behind the news cycle in terms of quoting this show, but that's okay. I mean, we get it to you first. We break the news, then we talk about it here on KCMO. They follow us in many cases. But in this case, this is Mike Parson putting some pressure on the Royals when he said, hey, I'm willing to help you guys how I can. Of course, not at the expense of the taxpayer, but I'm willing to help you how I can. But you guys got to tell me what the heck you want here.
Look, I don't know how to sugarcoat this, but the Royals have got to make a decision. They either got to say where they're going to go, where they're going to build a stadium, what's that going to look like, and what is it that they're going to need, or what is their ask? And in fairness, the Chiefs, they're not new to this arena, so they've got a pretty good plan in place. But the Royals got to make some decisions, and that's all there is to it. I mean, there's nothing I can help with until I figure out where they're going to go. I don't even know that at this point. I don't know if anybody up there does. And I don't want to be negative about it because I want the Royals and the Chiefs both be here, and I don't want to sound like I'm totally partial to the Chiefs because I'm such a fan. But the reality of it is we're trying to make a business decision. These guys have got to make a decision. I'm telling you, by the first of the year, if they don't have a plan in place, it's going to be too late. You can't make a plan in November, December and expect the state to come in and help you.
That was Governor Parson on this show on Friday, basically shooting it straight to the Royals, saying bleep or get off the pot. Let's go, fellas. What are we doing here? So if this Washington Square Park idea has some legs to it, well, then maybe we've got a location. But then the question becomes, how are you funding it? The Royals do not want to go back on a ballot. They don't want to go back in front of the voters after what happened back on April 2 in this town. However, apparently, Kansas City, Missouri, and Quinton Lucas is prepared to offer a financial structure that instead relies on city incentives and therefore bypasses the extension of a 3/8 cent countywide sales tax. Well, there's two pretty obvious questions here, if that's the plan. Does Kansas City have the juice? Does Kansas City have the tools to make that happen? That remains to be seen. I'm not convinced they do. And then the other part of it is, for you, the Kansas City taxpayer, what's the premise for pushing public money towards a project that county voters turned down by a massive margin just a few months ago? Now, I don't know if this means direct dollars. I don't know if this means something through Port KC. How do you incentivize it to make it appealing for the Royals? I don't know. And we will ask Quinton Lucas this morning, coming up at 7:30, 1 hour and 20 minutes away. So you don't want to miss the mayor this morning to talk about this. But what kind of deal are they actually going to put into place that works for the Royals and works for the taxpayer? The taxpayer sent a pretty clear message on this back in April in terms of where they want their money to go and where they don't want their money to go. If Kansas City is living high in the hog right now, well, they can somehow draw together a package that helps the Royals build $1 billion to $2 billion stadium down by Union Station. Well, damn, the taxes are too damn high. Tell you that right now. If they've got that kind of coin sitting around, then the taxes are too damn high. And I also don't want to hear about another, 2, 3, 4% raise for KCPD if you got the kind of cash flow where you're potentially dumping some of that into the Royals building a new stadium down by Crown Center and Union Station. I don't want to hear about that ever again. But that's where it's very vague right now. And I read all the quotes from Quinton Lucas here in the Kansas City Star piece that talks about Washington Square Park being a potential site for the Royals, and I came away more confused. So we're going to have to ask, as much as we can, some more pointed questions this morning to try to get some more direct answers from the mayor of Kansas City, Missouri, which I admit is never easy. But dang, at least give us the vehicle in which you can possibly incentivize this team. Because the article made it very clear, the Royals are not talking to Jackson County. They're not talking to Frank White. They're trying to do a deal exclusively with the city of Kansas City. And then maybe the state. But once again, we don't know what these options or these offers will look like or can look like. Because anything involving sales taxes is going to have to go to the vote of the people. And we know that neither team wants to do that at all anytime soon. 913-408-7957. 913-408-7957. Pete, if Kamala Harris can skip the voters, the Royals can too. That's very well done. Very well done on the text line. That's quick for 6:13 in the morning. Oh, brother. So now that we've got this new location as we sit here in mid-August, are you suddenly opening yourself back up to this new Royal Stadium? Or do you say, screw it, nope, we're done, no money, no nothing, you stay where you are. If not, you pay your own way. 913-408-7957. Meantime, we've got some details behind the awful crash that took place in this town, the group behind it. Yes, a group behind the awful crash that took place in Kansas City on Tuesday. We'll get you those details coming up on 95.7 FM. Many of you are asking the right questions. Washington Square Park, if the Royals are going to be seriously looking at that location, this is on the text line. Pete, what are they going to put there? A Little League stadium? That's a tight space for a Major League ballpark. It goes pretty far north-south. It's kind of tight east-west, but they could fit a ballpark there. Now, the question is, can they fit any of the other things that they wanted originally when they wanted the restaurants, when they wanted the hotel and the office space and all these things that were going to be ancillary income streams for the team? That part, I don't know, especially because you got a lot of hotel space around there already. You got a decent amount of office space in the area. So I don't know about that part. But let's be honest, beggars can't be choosers. And I don't think going out to a field in western Wyandotte County is really going to achieve what they want to achieve, John.
I don't know. I'm kind of with people. My mind's eye, it's a little smaller than I might remember it. But, we have Irish Fest down there at around Labor Day, and people go down around Crown Center. In that area, people congregate. So people are kind of familiar with the wooded area there. So I can see a field fitting there, but no stands, right? And
Could be like Field of Dreams.
Yeah, right.
There you go.
Right.
You put some bleachers up, and you're all set.
Sure, you build it. No problem.
Yeah.
Boulevardia has been over there the last couple of years, and they've had a stage in Washington Square Park. So I've actually been in there in the last couple of years.
Can you envision a stadium being up there or no?
Seems pretty small,
Yeah.
I would say. But, I mean, I'm not an architect, so.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
it could go north, but you've got the drop off then for the railroad tracks.
yes, you can only go so far
so
north.
far there,
Yeah.
without capping that or something.
Yeah. No, it's not the spot they thought they had down at the Crossroads or even in the East Village. It's certainly not the spot up north. I mean, if they truly want the big complex, Clay County is their best location there in North KC. You've got the most space. You can build it out. You're in a part of Kansas City as a region in North KC that is growing quickly. But there's got to be something right now that is preventing Clay County from getting itself to the top of the list. And I'm not quite sure on what it is right now. I'm not getting a lot of answers on that front. I'm digging for you, but I'm not getting a lot of answers on that front. So I don't know, but for whatever reason, there still is clearly hesitation on North Kansas City. And some of it may be just Quentin Lucas giving up the farm, to use a baseball analogy. I don't know what kind of deals he's offering, but I don't think he wants to be the guy that is going to lose this Major League Baseball team. I don't think his ego, as much as anything else, wants to lose this baseball team. So what is he offering? No one really knows. I've been told on good authority that there was some kind of an offer for that Crossroads location that caused the Royals to say, wow, we got to do this from the city. I don't know what it was, but it was one of those offers that was apparently too good to pass up. So is that what's going on right now? Is that why they're trying to kind of fit a square peg into a round hole with Washington Square Park? Maybe, but we just have to wait and see and kind of get a feel for what exactly this is going to look like here as we move through the days, weeks, and months ahead. But Mike Parsons said, the governor, hey, for me to help them, they've got to have an answer by the end of the year at the very latest. And what does that help look like? I don't know if there are statewide incentives that can be used, but yeah, he cannot start dumping taxpayer money onto the team. And he just said that they've got tools in their toolbox. What does that mean? What does that look like? It's not direct money. It's not direct payments, unless it's like fixing roads and bridges and, in and out, getting all that stuff done for a stadium. But barring that, what kind of incentives he's got, that remains to be seen.
I was just looking over here. There's a Korean War memorial there as well that they'd probably have to remove, which doesn't sound like that's something you'd want to do.
Yeah. Well, I think John Sherman would do right by the Korean War memorial.
That's true.
I mean that genuinely. I think he would. I don't know if he put it in the stadium or put it right outside the stadium, but I'm pretty confident that John Sherman would do right by the Korean War memorial. But thank you for bringing that up there, John. My father's father is a Korean War veteran, so glad you brought that up, my man. 913-408-7957. Pete, what's the point in moving if they can't get all the amenities they want with the restaurants and the hotel space? Well, many of you are going to say, just stay where you're at then. All right, that's it. Stay where you're at. What's the point? If you can't make all the extra money off the food, off the restaurants, the drinks, the hotels, the office space, stay where you're at. And that's a fair question and point to make. That's how it goes. Now, meantime, I want to transition here to this terrible accident that was reported on yesterday after a two-car crash on Tuesday left several children injured and 3 people dead. This happened at 35th Street and Norton Avenue at about 5 p.m. on August 13th. So the crash happened after a KCPD officer pulled a Kia Soul over at 31st Street and Cleveland Avenue for a traffic violation. As the officer got out of his car, the Kia sped off. The officer did not pursue the Kia and noted its plates came back as a stolen car. As the Kia sped away from the traffic stop, it approached a white Chevy Tahoe driving in the same direction on eastbound 35th Street. As the Chevy slowed to make a left turn on the northbound Norton Avenue, the Kia crossed into oncoming traffic, westbound traffic, to pass it. As the Chevy started its left turn, the Kia hit it, causing the Chevy to spin and end south on Norton Avenue. The Chevy driver was taken to an area hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The Kia crashed into a large utility pole and flipped on its roof. The car had 8 occupants. 16-year-old male driver pronounced dead at the scene. 37-year-old male front passenger pronounced dead at the scene. Female passenger pronounced dead at the hospital. 20-year-old male passenger sustained serious but non-life-threatening injuries. A 4-year-old sitting on the 20-year-old's lap sustained serious but non-life-threatening injuries. A 6-year-old passenger in the middle seat sustained serious but non-life-threatening injuries. A 12-year-old in the cargo, serious but non-life-threatening injuries. And a 13-year-old in the cargo, serious but non-life-threatening injuries. You had 8 people in a Kia Soul. Think about that. 8 people. And if you know a Kia Soul, it's not exactly a Chevy Suburban. This is why I've often said the greatest advantage you have in life is not your skin color. There is no white privilege. The greatest privilege you have in life is good parents. And the scumbags that are putting 4- and 6-year-olds in vehicles on laps in dangerous situations while you're fleeing police with 8 people in your small SUV. This is the scum of Kansas City. And I don't know who's in charge of these kids. It's not clear who the parents are of the 4- and the 6-year-old. It's just very obvious to anybody who has a pulse, anybody who's been a parent, anybody who hasn't been a parent, who's just a decent human being, that your greatest privilege in anything you do in life is who your parents are. You can't pick your parents. It's one of the few things in life you have no control over. Yet you're stuck with them for at least the first 18 years in most cases. And you've got 4-year-olds and 6-year-olds as part of these traffic stops that are turning deadly and going violent as well. And the Kia Boys is this group that I guess is somehow involved. It may not be officially a group, but it's, these young guys that run around town stealing Kias, since it takes nothing to steal a Kia or steal certain Kias. And obviously it's been an issue in St. Louis. It's been an issue here in Kansas City. And now you've got 8 people in Kia Souls fleeing cops with 4- and 6-year-olds in the car and potentially putting them in life-threatening situations. So just know, anytime someone's saying we need more of this, we need more of that, how about we need some damn good parents? How about we need people that care about the next generation? There's no government program that's going to fix this level of stupidity. There isn't. I wish there was, because I would advocate for it. It'd be a lot easier to say we throw some money at this, we fix it with this program, and everybody gets a decent shot at life. Not this 4-year-old. Not this 6-year-old. And that's the real tragedy here. 913-4087-957. News coming up in a couple of minutes. Where was Donald Trump yesterday? And why was it a very good day for him? We'll explain coming up next. As always with Trump, it's never a straight line, right? You're up, you're down, you're left, you're right. It feels like things are starting to go in the right direction after a clunky, shaky 3 weeks since the old switcheroo from Pops to Kamala. John, and I'm fired up.
Ever ride bumper cars?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're not quite in control, but you're hanging on.
Hanging on and trying to get to the finish line. Oh, that's what it feels like. And yesterday, you got the refocused Donald Trump. You got the guy who's starting to feel himself again. It seemed like for the last 3 weeks he was kind of on edge. He thought he had this thing in the bag against Joe Biden. But then what happens? Kamala Harris gets anointed by Joe Biden and the Democratic bigwigs and the media. They put absolutely no pressure on her in one of the more pathetic displays of journalism that we've seen in American history the last 3.5 weeks. And unfortunately, none of that is surprising. But it seems like, if you read a lot of the media reports, it has infuriated Donald Trump. Now, frankly, nothing should infuriate him anymore from the standpoint of the media being absolutely biased against him. Look at what these hucksters have been doing for the better part of 9 years against this guy. But I guess we all reserve the right to be surprised once in a while. But the last couple of days, in particular, I would say really since last weekend, this week, Donald Trump has been more focused. Donald Trump has stayed on point. He had the podcast thing with Elon Musk he did earlier this week on X, which I thought went very well overall. I know everyone's freaking out about, it started 40 minutes late because of technical issues. Okay, well, that's not really on Trump. And it got, a billion views, if I saw that right. So at one point you had 16 million people watching it. So it was a massive, massive success for Donald Trump and Elon Musk when you look at the viewership and listenership, really, for that event that took place on Monday evening. So that was a big hit, and that worked out very well. And then you fast forward to yesterday, where Donald Trump was in North Carolina. And his speech was basically sticking to the teleprompter. You know, if there's one thing that Donald Trump can learn from Kamala Harris, and it's literally just one thing. There are not two things to learn from Kamala Harris. Well, there might be other things to learn, but nothing else Donald Trump wants to learn. But the one thing he can actually learn from Kamala Harris is that she has done a great job in 3 weeks sticking to the script, sticking to the prompter. If Trump does that, he will win. And that is exactly what he did yesterday.
Together we will deliver low taxes, low regulations, low energy costs, low interest rates, low inflation, so that everyone can afford groceries, a car, and a home. Common sense.
Common sense.
We will stop the invasion, end the migrant crime, support our great police, save Medicare, and save Social Security, which is under siege. We will strengthen our military, build a missile defense shield, keep critical race theory and transgender insanity the hell out of our schools, and keep men out of women's sports.
He was fired up. He threw in his little Trump-isms, common sense. You know, he threw in the little Trump-isms, but he didn't go wildly off script. And you know how I know that? Not only did I watch it, but the media is not really talking about Trump's speech from last night in North Carolina. That's how you know it went well, right? When they don't talk about it, that means it was a good speech for Trump.
Yep. Can't refute that. Can't refute that one. That one's true. Get the fact. No fact check.
Whoops.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
So if you haven't seen any headlines from your least favorite mainstream media outlets today, this morning or late last night, that's because Trump did a bang-up job yesterday. That's how it goes. Because when he does well, they don't talk about it. When he doesn't do well, they obviously find the lines they want to highlight. So that's what this game has always been. That's what it will continue to be. And that's the Donald Trump that America needs for the next 80 some odd days. That guy, super laser focused on the bullseye, looking at this thing and just saying, I have to win, not just for himself and his ego. That's really secondary to the country. Kamala Harris is a chameleon. Kamala Harris is pretending to be something that she's not. She is not a moderate. She has never been a moderate. Tim Walz is not a moderate. He's MSNBC's vision of a moderate because Well, he's a white guy who I guess, as far as we know, is straight and is from Minnesota. So, he must be somewhat moderate because that's what MSNBC thinks a moderate guy is, but he's not. It is the most progressive ticket in modern American history. And Donald Trump, for the sake of the country, cannot lose to it. Now, would he be better off having a little extra positivity and rah-rah America in his speech? Yes. And from what I heard yesterday, there was some of that. And he needs more of that. And the more of that he gets, the better off he's going to be. And the better off his campaign is going to be. Because I do think people in part are worn out. I do think they want some optimism in their politics today. They want a little bit. Not Ronald Reagan, but they want a little bit of that happy warrior. Trump's always going to be who he is. But if he adds a little bit of that and he stays hyper-focused, he's back in the driver's seat come November 5. Spring Hill is where Walter's hanging out. What's up, Walter?
Hi, good morning, Pete. I think he may have seen that interview that Nikki Haley gave with Bret Baier because she was on point. He needs to stop worrying about stupid stuff like crowd size and Kamala's race. Stick to the issues, and you can get this. You got this.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what happened, and it's a definite change for the better.
It is. Thank you, my man. You're right. And I don't know if it was the Nikki Haley interview, but you're right. Nikki Haley said as much this week. Stop complaining about the media treatment of Kamala. We always knew this was going to happen. Stop with the crowd size nonsense, and let's get refocused here. And let's do it, by the way, on behalf of the American people who desperately need us right now. Now, Donald Trump also made another very interesting, I don't know if it was a promise, but it was a proposal he made yesterday about getting energy prices down dramatically. We know that's been one of the big reasons for inflation, and here's what he had to say on that front.
By contrast, I'm announcing today that under my leadership, the United States will commit to the ambitious goal of slashing energy and electricity prices by half, at least half. We intend to slash prices by half within 12 months, at a maximum 18 months. And if it doesn't work out, you'll say, oh, well, I voted for him. I still got him down a lot, but we're looking to do it. We're looking to cut him in half, and we think we'll be able to do better. And every single thing that I promised, I produced. Every single thing. You will never have had energy so low as you will under a certain gentleman known as Donald J. Trump. Have you heard of him? So we think your energy bills will be down by 50 to 70%. How good would that be for a thing called inflation? How good will that be?
Maybe you've heard of him. And even if I don't get him down all the way, 50, 70%, well, I'll give it my best shot. I've done my best, John.
Trump forgets who he is.
That's right.
Signs of dementia.
CNN screaming headline this morning on the lower third on TV. I love when we're kicking the rear end, too, of the guys who are supposed to be the voice of sports in Kansas City. You're getting more information here on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM, than you are from the guys who decided to apparently join the party on the FM dial. If you've seen that story in Kansas City news over the last week or so. And they're doing, as I've been told by some of you on the text line, fluffity fluff talk, while we're actually getting you answers on how the Royals could end up playing in Washington Square Park and what that means, because it's really a news story. It is not a sports story. There's nothing about the Royals playing downtown or moving to a new location that has anything to do with sports. It's masked as a sports story, but it's a business, politics, tax story more than it is a sports story. It just involves a sports franchise. But it's why we have run circles around these shows over the last several months. We've completely demolished them, and now they've got to try to follow us to the FM dial to try to give themselves a little juice. But based on what I'm hearing, I don't think it's going to work out well for them, because you continue to come here to KCMO for actual news, information, opinions that matter, and hear from the power players. I mean, heck, the Kansas City Stars had to write about this show twice in the last week because we're talking to people that won't talk to them, and nor should they, I will add. So now they've got to quote this show, which I know burns their butts. I know deep down it burns their butts. And then you guys are calling in and texting the show saying, hey, Stars got you in there again today regarding Governor Mike Parson and what he said last week on this show when he told the Royals to basically, poop or get off the pot is what he effectively said to them. And that's what the Royals now have to figure out, and that's what they've got to do. And you heard from Quentin Lucas, who just said on the show that, they've had extensive conversations with the Royals, and I didn't expect to get any answers on, location or anything like that. But it was interesting to me that he did not really deny that Washington Square Park location. As some of you have noted, it's not the biggest site, but I believe the Royals' grandiose plans of the office space with the restaurants, with this, with that, with all the ancillary income streams that they originally thought they could take advantage of, they're going to have to basically pull back on in a major way. Not that they can't have those other revenue streams more so than they have them now at the K, but they're not going to have the multi-billion-dollar complex that they planned to have when the renderings and whatnot first came out, a year ago or so, John.
But with the Crossroads in this location, those facilities are near, so I don't know if that rules out a future purchase of said facilities, but certainly they're looking in areas where those things exist. And they don't have to build them now.
Yeah, you certainly got a lot of hotel space down there in that area.
Seems interesting. I don't know what you might do with Union Station is all part of it, too,
Yeah.
The east end of the station there. Of course, you got the street.
Yeah.
So I don't. Ooh, the streetcar. We better not cut off the streetcar.
Well, no, that's going to be a big pull. You see, you're going to take the streetcar to the game, John.
We're going to get 50 fans to the ballpark
yes,
a minute.
50 fans at a time get on the streetcar. First 50 fans get on. You wait 7 minutes. You get the next 50 fans on. Everyone's going to be home by 5:30 in the morning. Oh, it's going to be great. You just wait. Streetcar's going to get everybody around just like the 7 train does. To Queens, New York for a big Mets game. It's like, come on, are you kidding me? Please spare me that. I'm not going to take that.
I felt the slight dig at Frank White when talking about the Chiefs, though.
From Quentin Lucas?
Yeah.
What did he? I thought he tried to kind of be nice to him. What did he say?
He was saying that he's not the county executive, so he doesn't really have much say with them staying at the Truman Sports Complex.
He did say that, didn't he? Yeah. Quentin Lucas, God bless him. I love that he comes on the show, but I admit I got to make sure my coffee's done because he's saying so many words a minute. I miss one here or there. I'm just saying that is how it goes sometimes. But things are moving fast, and it sounds like we do have a deadline of the end of the year, if not earlier. The mayor's saying November is his potential deadline to get this thing all wrapped up and have some answers. But I know on great authority, neither team wants to go to you, the taxpayer, anymore. They don't want to go to a vote. So now they got to figure all this out. So the Royals could do a deal with the city. The Chiefs could figure it out with the county and the state. And then we all move on. 913-408-7957 as we get to 8 o'clock here on KCMO Talk Radio. So the housing crisis is enormous right now in the country. Donald Trump has one answer. Elizabeth Warren and Democrats have another answer. Which one actually works for the American people? We'll talk about it next. Ask anybody under the age of 40 who is not in a home that they own or have purchased what their biggest issue is right now, and it's probably getting into a house if they don't have one that they own today. Everything has gone up. We know the cost of housing has gone up tremendously the last 4 years. Demand continues to exceed supply. You have older people with paid-off homes who have no reason to leave right now. You have mortgage rates obviously going up, so you can afford less home than you could just a few years ago. Homeowners insurance, cost of repairs, everything is through the roof, right? And it's frankly one of the more undercovered issues in this election. But it got some traction yesterday. And I'm glad that Donald Trump is talking about it because, frankly, I think if he put together a vision for young people and how his economic policies would help them get into a home, how improving the economy would allow interest rates to come down, and promoting home building, increasing supply would bring prices down. I think that's a message that a lot of people under 40 want to hear and frankly need to hear. But then there's the other side. So the first comment on this yesterday when it came to housing came from Elizabeth Warren. Hey, got to do my native chant for old Liz. So the 1024th Native American, Liz Warren, did a selfie video yesterday, and it was just classic boomer selfie where it's like under her chin. It's like, come on, you got to put that thing up top. That's how you do the selfie, up top, not under the chin there, Liz. She's like sitting in a car. She's getting driven around. It must be nice when you're a U.S. Senator, getting driven around, doing a selfie video, talking about how expensive housing is right now. But, of course, her answer is total bonkers on how to fix it.
You ever wonder how your grandparents bought a home for 7 raspberries, but you can't afford a 1-bedroom apartment? It's not you. We're facing a national shortage of 7 million homes, and renters and buyers are having to deal with the consequences. The government needs to tackle this crisis head on, just like we helped people afford their homes decades ago. So I have a bill that would lower rents by 10% and would help first-time homebuyers get a foot in the door. It's time to get this done.
Notice how Elizabeth Warren's answers to the problem are all about government cramdowns. She's got a bill that lowers rents by 10% and would help first-time homebuyers get a foot in the door. She said the government needs to tackle this crisis head on, just like we helped people afford their homes decades ago. Now, maybe you bought a home decades ago and you can give a little more color on what exactly she's referring to there. But clearly what she's talking about is the government spending money. I don't care if you've got an MBA or not. Use some common sense with me here for the next 60 seconds. If the government started helping people with their home purchases, whether it's through direct payments, whether it's through, breaks on mortgage rates, I don't know, whatever kind of weird ideas they put together, what do you think would happen? There would be an even larger increased demand for housing. But if you're not promoting policies that increase supply, it doesn't matter. You're just going to see the housing prices continue to go up, 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 up. You're not actually fixing the problem. You might make people feel good. You might create this perception that you're fixing the problem, but you're not actually fixing the problem. And how the government is going to lower rents by 10% doesn't even make sense. But when it comes from Elizabeth Warren, that would be a cram down. You know how you get rents down? You know you get cost of housing down? You create more of it, and you incentivize builders to build more. And the other thing, I thought it was interesting. She said that we have a shortage of 7 million homes and that renters and buyers are having to deal with the consequences. There's been this little thing that's happened here in this country the last 3.5 years where, we've just flooded 10 million people in here. Got to go somewhere. Got to live somewhere. Got to pay for rent somehow. Anyone think of that? You geniuses who have turned a blind eye to a massive crisis along the southern border? You don't think that has played a role in housing costs and rental costs, especially for those on the lowest end of the socioeconomic scale, where they are feeling the inflation pinch more than anybody else? They're the ones competing more so with illegal immigrants for jobs, for rents, for places to live. I mean, they're the ones who are suffering the most. And she acts like that's not part of the equation here. Is it the biggest part of the equation? No, it's not. But it is a part of the equation. So Trump's in North Carolina yesterday. He brings up the housing issue. I'm glad he's finally talking about it because it is, I believe, the issue for people under the age of 40. And here's what he said.
To further address the housing affordability crisis, we will work with states like Nevada A great state. We're leading big in the poll there, by the way. Thank you very much. Good governor. To open up large tracts of federal land for housing constructions, and similar to opportunity zones that I did with Senator Tim Scott, a great guy from South Carolina. Senator from South Carolina. Came in, he said, I have this idea. He's had it for a long time, but he could never get a president to execute it. I did. And opportunity zones, one of the greatest things that we've done in terms of economic development. I give Tim Scott a lot of credit for that too. These areas will have low taxes, low regulation to stimulate rapid economic growth, maximum affordability, and the return of a thing called, which I always come back to, the American dream, because we've lost the American dream.
That was Donald Trump yesterday in North Carolina. Now, I know, and listen, I consider myself as free market as realistically possible. I know there's people who are going to scream and shout about, well, that's just the government getting involved in a different way. Okay, if I want the government involved, though, I want them increasing supply, which then will help bring prices down. So then demand can actually meet supply, and we don't have this insane housing market that we have right now, where people and households making six figures and more as household incomes are like, I can't even afford a house. And it's not just in places like New York or California. It's right here in the Kansas City area. There are younger families having those very conversations right now. On the text line, 913-408-7957, Pete, look at Johnson County. All the new townhouses are rentals, and they're not for sale. Well, yes, that's problematic as well. And the willingness to continue to build in places like Overland Park and Olathe and elsewhere, Lenexa, 3, 4, 5-story apartment complexes, when, let's be honest, people who want to live in Johnson County for the most part want to be there in a single-family home, is just still the most mind-numbingly stupid thing that these local municipalities are doing. But they're all just bending over for the developers and not really worrying about what makes their communities desirable and what people actually want out of those communities and what they're looking for. They're looking for homes. But instead, it's like, you know what, we'll build another 5-story apartment complex right off of 435 or K10 or K7 or whatever. I mean, yeah, that'll work. And I will say this much on behalf of the developers. I get it too. They got to make money. And right now, that's where they can make the money. They can't make nearly as much profit building these single-family homes. And part of that is just the fault of the environment that we're in, the cost of everything that continues to skyrocket. You can't build those $200,000 starter homes anymore. I mean, look at the new builds in parts of Johnson County. A couple thousand square feet, 3-bed, 2-bath, and you're looking at $400,000 on some of these things. Easy. So it's problematic. But out of those two options, if you're talking about Donald Trump creating basically opportunity zones for housing and creating an environment where builders want to build, that's how you help ease and solve the issue. And then, yes, if the economy gets better and mortgage rates come down, you will also create an environment where people are more willing to move. Because right now, everyone's got these golden handcuffs on these mortgage rates at, 2.5%, 3%, and they're kind of stuck. They're not going to go double their mortgage payment to move unless they absolutely have to. And it's the most undercovered issue that also has impacts right here in the Kansas City area, because affordability was always one of the best things about this metro. And even that's gone by the wayside for too many. 913-408-7957. It's 8:15 on a Thursday morning. Pete Mundo on 95.7 FM, KCMO. A lot of you also noting that home builders are having a hard time right now building homes for less than $400,000 to $500,000. And a lot of it is due to energy efficiency regulations. As one texter notes here, new codes require more expensive items like appliances, windows, insulation, wiring, HVAC. These new codes have nothing to do with function, but only efficiency. Another texter saying new codes in Kansas City may require things like every new building being wired for solar and EV chargers. Oh, my goodness.
I'm getting pissed now.
Oh, gosh. I mean, that's ridiculous. Even Greta Thunberg is like, what's going on here?
How dare you?
Yeah. That adds a huge expense to the builders, which leads to an increased cost to the consumer. Yes, that's how it works. But hey, don't worry. We're saving the planet one EV charger on a building in Kansas City, Missouri at a time. Okay?
Talk about a price gouge.
Yeah.
That's a familiar phrase they like to throw around, but isn't it government gouging here?
Yes, they are.
With our own money?
For feel-good green crap. Jeez, unreal. 913-408-7957. Milo's in Overland Park. You're on KCMO. What's happening, my man?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I pulled over so I wouldn't be driving while I'm talking to you.
Well, and if you do get pulled over, you tell the Overland Park cop that you're calling our show and you'll get taken care of.
Well, it's funny you should bring that up, Pete, because in 1966, I went to work for the Overland Park Police Department and retired in 2018.
Well, so, God bless you. Go ahead, my man.
So getting back to your point when you were talking about apartment complexes, have you been by 135th and Antioch lately?
130, yes. Right down the road here from us at Corporate Woods.
Have you seen that apartment complex there on the southwest corner?
It's not coming to mind, but doesn't mean I haven't seen it.
Well, it replaced the Fry nursery that was there. When I went to work in Overland Park in 1966, there was hardly anything south of 435, as you know. And the city council members, who I think were really great, started building,
What's the point, Milo, if you don't mind cutting to the chase, my man?
There's just too many apartment complexes going up.
Yep.
They're just out of sight. That's all I have to say.
No, you're right. And I appreciate that. You're absolutely right. And trust me, I have dealt with this in my town in Johnson County where they continue to rezone. And this is on the text line. Pete, Olathe in particular, rezoning single-family home and business plots of land, allowing huge apartment complexes anywhere they can. Absolutely. I can think of one right off of K10 that comes to mind. It puts more strain on infrastructures and roads, not to mention potential increases in crime rates. And don't forget about the schools as well, right? They always pitch it as, well, we're getting more people into a smaller plot of land, which is good for our bottom line as a city. And that's all they're chasing is dollars. They're chasing tax dollars to then continue to grow government. That's what they're doing. That's the only thing they're interested in many cases. But they bill it as building a community. It's like, are you kidding me? I mean, please. Might have been born at night, but it wasn't last night. David's on KCMO. What's up, David?
Yeah, I was just telling your guy on the line, I'm a subcontractor for a home builder, and Kansas City's energy code that they implemented adds $12,000 in cost to each house, and it only saves them $125 a year on energy savings. Which takes 96 years to pay back.
That is the most government idea ever, is it not?
It is.
Oh, my gosh. Let's figure out a way to screw the builder, screw the buyer in the name of green energy and saving the planet on a deal that will take 96 years to pay back, and it's not even clear it's going to do anything for the environment.
Absolutely.
Unbelievable. That's outstanding information, David. Thank you very much. And don't forget this, the way that these cities love, they love to try to figure out ways, especially on the Kansas side, to use these star bonds, which have gotten all the attention here the last couple of months for the Chiefs and the Royals out in Wyandotte County. But don't forget, it gets used by municipalities as well. And speaking of Olathe is set next month to consider a star bond incentive for a new mystery sports facility and amusement park. This would be on the southwest and northeast corners of 119th Street and Renner Boulevard. Plans include an amusement park and a sports facility. Now, they say it's not for the Chiefs or the Royals, just to be clear. I don't know. Maybe the Monarchs are going to move. I don't know what, Frank White wants to, come down and tap some tushes there in Johnson County instead of being out in Wyandotte. I don't know, as the first base coach. But the plan is in the early stages and light on details. It's being proposed by an unnamed developer. The city council last week agreed to hold a public hearing at its September 17th meeting to discuss establishing the Starbond District on 2 large swaths of land, 3 acres at the southwest corner of 119th Street and Wenner Boulevard, and another 69 acres on the northeast corner of the same intersection. So the state government, the state of Kansas, which has these dopey star bonds, then gets used by city councils to try to draw people in. And by the way, most of the ones done by cities have been failures, to be very clear. But then the cities can try to increase their bottom line by putting amusement parks at 119th and Renner Boulevard? What are you going to put there? And what does that do for that part of Johnson County? Do these people have any brains? Do they care about, it's unbelievable. And it's really infuriating. You know, whether it's what we've been talking about, of course, with the low barrier homeless shelter there at 95th and I-35 that the Lenexa City Council is going to have to be in charge of stopping. Just an awful location. It's not about not caring about the homeless. We all should. But the government, are they the best option? Is that the best site? The answer is no. Or it's stuff like this. Let's use star bonds and put an amusement park at 119th and Renner. Yeah, because everybody's looking for their local amusement park to be sitting at 119th and Renner Boulevard. Well, we're going to use star bonds because the government's so smart. They've got so many tools in their toolbox. This makes great sense, John.
I wonder if we Googled amusement parks in news stories, what type of stories we would find at these amusement parks, right? We're having trouble with attendance and behavior, et cetera. It ain't what it used to be at the amusement park. So suddenly thinking, hey, it's almost like saying, let's build a shopping center. Well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
They're all kind of fading.
Well, exactly. I mean, Worlds of Fun, because they get all the good headlines these days and great publicity coming out of Worlds of Fun these days, right? Come on.
And it's nationwide.
Yeah.
And they've got that Mattel park going out in KCK.
Well, that's true as well. How many of these things do you need? Why don't you guys focus on actually building a community that people want to live in? Instead of trying to figure out how you can build a cornball amusement park and then figure out how many bags of popcorn and cotton candy you can sell and get sales tax dollars off of that. Just an absolute bunch of fools running these cities and these counties. And we got to be paying attention to who's in charge.
If they promise me some mini golf, I'll show up though and play.
Stop. Don't give them any ideas, Mark, okay? Don't give them any ideas. I'll get you a little putt-putt for your backyard. How about that? We'll call it even.
Okay, that sounds fun.
All right. I mean, it cost me $100. I'll give it to you for when's your birthday? December?
December 15th.
All right. I got some time. After the election. If I'm in a good mood, depending how it plays out, I'll buy you one.
Can be a combined birthday and Christmas present.
Oh, gosh. That sounds great.